This is the SHIP National Chapter Reports Leader webinar, and we are from the SHIP Dallas Fort Worth Professional Chapter, a gold medal award honoree this past year at the SHIP National Convention. My name is James Neri. I am currently the SHIP Dallas Fort Worth Community Outreach Director. So leading up all of our STEM outreach initiatives with SHIP Junior, Echo Ponda Padres, Noche de Ciencias, and are responsible for our scholarship program as well and some of our fundraising activities. So I'll turn it over now to our president, Matthew.
Hi everyone, my name is Matthew Magana. I am the president of SHIP DFW, and I'm very excited to be here today. I can't wait to share the ins and outs to chapter reports and how we find success in that. So without further ado, we'll get into our agenda. Today, we'll talk about using the template and the rubric, support resources and clarifications, time management, balancing figures, context and clarity, strategy, outcomes, and KPIs, and using the CMT, and then we'll finally end with our Q&A. Using the template and the rubric, I will say the most essential thing for any chapter is to follow the template and follow the rubric. National gives us exactly what they require, so reading these documents in their entirety will help us find common areas that need clarification, because from familiarity comes clarity, right? So in doing so, reading these documents, understanding the documents, that will help avoid confusion. Also, I will say, look out for our chapter specific requirements. Some sections are labeled professional chapters only. So with that, make sure, to insert those chapter specific requirements into your national report. If you don't know, Nationals actually has a page on chapter resources, so I highly suggest checking that out. Follow the rubric. You have to use the rubric as a grading guide, right, for our chapter recruitment, retention, and success sections. We like to cross-check each section against our criteria. We utilize our resources, and you should too. Analyze the examples from how chapters align responses to the rubric elements utilizing our 2-point criteria here. Treat the rubric as a checklist. During drafting and final review, I will say what helps us the most is keeping that rubric open during drafting and reviewing. That way, we insert everything that we need in our national report. Make sure to ask a lot of questions and follow the requirements. Support resources and clarifications. Support exists, so I suggest that you use it. There's no such thing as a wrong question. Your national team and your regional team is there to help. So asking for feedback early will help with rewrites closer to the deadline. Don't guess. We really try to leverage our leadership cohorts and our WhatsApp groups for those peer-to-peer device. So I will say it helps a lot asking for support. What can help you improve next year? Clearer guidance, earlier outreach, and peer sharing. Try to normalize asking for help. Support is a part of that chapter success system. Why some chapters don't reach out could be time, awareness, and uncertainty. However, don't be afraid to reach out to your regional and national team. James, if you'd like to read about time management.
Okay, yeah. Thank you, Matt. I'll speak on the time management aspect. So, yes, time management when we're writing the national chapter program reports and our board meetings is very crucial. So, Time is our friend, basically. I recommend, as a longtime chapter leader and regional leader, that you don't delay on writing the chapter reports and the chapter management tools. So at the start of the year, make sure you start drafting your chapter management tools with your SWOT analysis, your goals and objectives, and a short list of your chapter schedule with a listing of all of your planned meetings, events that you want to do throughout the year in the starting in the July timeframe. And then you can work on refining it with your board of directors from July through September, when the CMT is due on October 15th with the first chapter check-in. And then continuously update your CMT with monthly updates to track the status of your events, documenting any action items, closing out events that were completed, or if they weren't completed, why were they canceled? Maybe didn't have the resources or the resources to plan. So just documenting those, the events that were completed, document your metrics basically with the number of people that attended, how many volunteers you had, if it was a fundraising event, how much funding did you raise, basically those types of metrics. And that will go a long way when you start drafting your NCP. So now we are in December, and we are starting to write our first chapter report that is due January 15th. Don't start writing it on January 14th before it's due. So we encourage you to read through, watch this material in this video and meeting, and start now, basically this month, drafting your national chapter program to report number 1, and start asking any questions through your regional team or the national staff, or watching this program. And that way, if there's any confusion, you have time to get clarification and update your report before it's due on the 15th. One of the best practices we try to do in SHPE DFW is finish the report early and have it ready to submit at least a week before the deadline, basically. That way you still have time to make any last minute edits, peer reviews, and things of that with your board of directors. And then make sure that you create a shared timeline or calendar within your chapter to document all of the reporting tasks and your events that you host within your chapters. And then make sure you keep track of all your event notes, photos, metrics, and store them on a shared in a shared folder on like a Google Drive or some other collaborative network that you can share amongst your board members. And then make sure you, like I said, make sure you allocate plenty of time before the report is due, not a day or two before the deadline, but like a week. I recommend a week to 2 weeks to allow for any last minute editing, peer reviewing, and making sure you meet the rubric alignment that SHPE National gives to us. Next chart. Okay, so how do you write the report now? So it's 8 pages max, which is not a lot of space to cover everything that all of our chapters want to highlight and showcase all of the stuff that you're doing throughout the year. You have to be very succinct, show a lot of figures, and also show a lot of pictures of your events. So pictures, as we say, is worth 1,000 words, basically. So make sure you use a lot of figures and pictures of your events. Make sure you take a lot of group photos at your general body meetings, your community outreach events, your professional development events, that way. And then per the rubric, You don't want to just say like, oh, we hosted XYZ events basically, and we had this many people. Um, to get maximum points per the rubric, make sure you share your story and your why. Tell the why behind all of your events that you accomplish, and elaborate a little bit on the purpose and the reason for hosting that type of event, basically whether it be community outreach or professional development, our general body meetings, or our chapter engagement events, basically. um, and then the next thing, and so that really connects, that will connect the data directly, um, directly back to your top level strategic goals and objectives that are in your chapter management tool. And then the next thing is highlight the significance of the activities with a brief qualitative insight. So make sure you identify your key performance indicators like number of volunteers, number of students impacted, number of scholarships awarded, or amount of fundraising you did, or uh, the number of professionals you impacted. So, and then add content that supports the rubric expectations for clarity and depth, basically. And then use short, succinct statements that avoid filler language, basically. So you don't have a whole lot of room to cover your planned activities, starting with the summary of your chapter plan from the CMT, and then a summary of your planned activities, and then future activities. So there's you have to be very succinct, basically, to fit it all within the total of 8 pages across member recruitment, member retention, and member success, basically. And so basically, try and leverage a lot of uh, graphs and figures and tables, basically, and then have just a few captions, basically, to briefly and succinctly describe what's in the table or the figure, basically. Next turn. Okay, so strategies, outcomes, and key performance indicators. Make sure in your CMT at the start of the year, you clearly show goals that are using the SMART format, so specific, measurable, actionable, relevant, and time bound, um, with measurable outcomes. So strategy plus the metrics equals the impact. So setting, so the clearer your outcomes are, the more clear your goals are. So you want to set your chapter goals and then have an action plan to achieve those goals, and then measure the and then track the outcome of those events and meetings that you hold during the year. You want to connect each action directly to the chapter plan and the chapter management tool entries, basically. And you want to highlight any short-term wins and long-term with long-term impact. And then show, you want to be able to show how your chapter strategies support each of the 3 areas in the CMT. Chapter member recruitment, which is like your general body meetings, your chapter engagement, chapter development events, networking and socials. Member retention is things like your mentoring program, professional development program, community outreach events, and member success goals are things like your professional and career advancement goals, basically, and community outreach and scholarship uh, chapter initiatives. So, what KPIs strengthen your report? So, focus on membership growth, um, event participation. So, the number of speakers, the number of participants, whether it be students or professionals, the number of volunteers, also, and then partnership expansion, so the number of companies that you outreach to, scholarship awards, so how much and how many scholarships you distribute amongst your community, and then leadership development, so how many members participated in your board of director meetings, how many attended NELA, how many attended national convention and RLDCs if we have RLDCs in the future, and then your SMART goals. Um, um, Set SMART goals that clearly link back to your chapter strategy. So in SHIP DFW, we typically have like 5 main strategic goals, and then we have a whole bunch of objectives that align with each event on our chapter schedule. And so our top 5 strategic goals will be like um, how many chapter development events we want to host, how many professionals we want to impact, how many students we want to impact, how many scholarships we want to give out, basically. Things like that. And then each one of those break down into each of our individual chapter objectives that align with all of our events that we host throughout the year. Next chart. So, using the chapter management tool or the CMT, this is your chapter's friend, basically. So, SHIP National gives us a very wonderful tool that can be used. And so this is kind of what it looks like. And this specifically on the chart that is showing is the chapter schedule tab, basically, in the CMT file. And so you'll see at the top, you have your chapter strategic goals. This is the part you have to work with your board of directors on at the start of the year and come up with those top 3, top 5 strategic goals and break them down by member recruitment, member retention, and member success for professionals, basically. And then once you've identified what your strategic goals are at the chapter level, then you can focus on the lower portion of the chapter schedule portion of the tab in the worksheet. And that's where you define all of your objectives, and that aligns by each event that you want to host. And then you have a tag that traces each objective and chapter event back to one of the 3 or 4 strategic goals that you set at the very top. And then in your monthly board meetings, once you have that chapter management tool identified and agreed to in June, July, early August timeframe, then in your monthly board meetings, you can status them, and this will help you with the time management aspect of statusing your objectives and chapter events based on the completion. And then you can track the final outcomes, description, summary of the event, and some brief high-level lessons learned that are good takeaways for the future board of directors that will come after you. And you can track in there how much budget was spent, how many people participated, how many volunteers you had, any partnerships you had as well too. And then the lower screenshot is a snapshot of the previous goals and how they align with is the SWOT analysis portion of the CMT worksheet. And you see a snapshot of our last year's goals, and then a working spreadsheet of all of our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats that we work on as a board. Identifying our strengths and our weaknesses in each of the 3 areas: member recruitment, member retention, and member success. And then based on that, we decide which objectives we want to keep, change, or add every year, basically, with the new board. So the CMT can be used as a monthly schedule and status tracking tool. So and National does a very good job of flowing these tools down so that it makes our lives and jobs a whole lot easier, because you don't have to go and create anything new. You just download the tool from the chapter resources website, and basically you can instantly use it. And with minimal effort, you can use it as a tracking tool in your monthly board meetings. And then you can use it to track. It's basically like a one-stop shop where you can track all of your budget, finances, actuals per event. You can track your event metrics, and then you can status it monthly in the board meetings, almost like a rolling action item list or tracker, basically. So very simple and very easy to use. And then it instantly shows traceability up to your strategic chapter goals, which aligns with the SHIP national mission and vision statement. All right, next chart. And now it is your time to ask any questions.
James, Matthew, thank you so much for running us through some tips and tricks as it comes up in regards to chapter reporting. Thank you. And as folks are thinking about potential questions they may have, I'm sure everyone already got a head start on all their reports. They're going to finish a week before the deadline, I'm sure. And so I wanted to ask a question as to when you all first started getting into chapter reports and your team did, what were some of the roadblocks that you hit or some of the pieces of chapter reporting that were a little bit more difficult to navigate than others at the beginning?
James, you want to take this?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so some of the challenges that basically is, so making sure from the previous board to the new board that you have all the metrics identified in the spreadsheet. So from the previous year, so that you can evaluate and analyze some of the metrics, basically, so that the new board can then determine what goals they want to continue, and then also making sure it's in a format that's easily graphically depicted, basically. So making sure you can create a little worksheet or spreadsheet to create all those wonderful graphs and tables and figures that um, are encouraged to be put into the NCP report 1 and 2, basically. So making sure everything is formatted properly, basically, and all the chapter metrics and data is collected from the old board to the new board, basically. Anything you want to add, Matt, to that?
Yeah, I definitely agree. That's very essential, especially if we're trying to see the growth from year to year. I will say also another big hurdle was trying to, time manage. Previous years, we weren't the best, but working on it year by year, we got better and better. Now we are on top of our stuff. But I will say at the start, especially with the new transition from the old chapter template to the new one, it definitely was quite the thing. But we worked together, got through it. That's all I have for that question. Thank you, Mary.
Thank you both. Dominic, I did see you go off mute if you want to go ahead and chime in with any questions you might have.
Hi, can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
All right. Yeah, my name's Dominic Gallardo. I'm the president for the San Fernando Valley SHIP chapter. So what are the common characteristics between the when you compare the chapter reports to the SHIP chapters that that win, that get the gold, that get the silver, I'm assuming that's a big part of choosing them, giving them those awards. What do you see as a consistency between those reports? And then as a second follow-on question, are there example or actually submitted chapter reports that we are able to look at, maybe not in its entirety, but as a small portion or summary?
I could take that. Yeah, I think the biggest thing that I've seen across the board is the chapters that win the awards, they follow the template and they follow the rubric. I think that's essential to any project. Having those requirements and following those specific requirements will go that way, that long way. I believe there was an email I saw way back when. I don't know if everyone was privy to that. Miriam, is there example PDFs on the resources? I haven't checked recently.
Yeah, so one of the things I just put in the chat is going to be the rubric that we use to grade all of the reports and then the check-ins that get submitted. And so that really, to Matt's point, is going to be the foundation, right, to ensure that your reporting is successful. And we completely understand there's chapters at different stages of the chapter lifeline, right? And so for those that are new chapters, for those that are seasoned chapters, it doesn't matter in terms of how big or how impactful, right? It just matters that you're doing the work and we want to see it. One of the really big value propositions to submitting your reports is that you give us an idea of where you're at. And that's really what we want to know, right? Is making sure that we understand what your strengths are, what your works in progress might be looking like, so that we can, to this video and like this webinar series, come put you with someone that's doing something really successfully, right? So if you need another chapter as a mentor, as a resource, we look at all of the reports. We see everyone that is maybe struggling in the same areas, and we look at a chapter or two that are doing really well, and we try to make sure they're available as a resource to you, in addition to your regional leaders, in addition to us. So the rubric is going to be on that chapter resources page, which is going to be a really great hub, one, to rewatch these videos as I referenced in the chat, but then two, you're going to look at all of those chapter reporting resources, from templates to examples to frequently asked questions. And so feel free to take a look at that section. And you're always free to email us at chapters@ship.org if you have any very specific questions. If you have specific needs, we're here to support you in those capacities. And then go ahead, James.
Also, Marian, I was going to say, do we still have the link with all the chapter reports that chapter officers can look at? I think it used to be at the regional level, but I haven't seen that in a while too. So I don't know if someone is still managing that or not.
That's a great question. It's not one I've come across, but let me reach out to, you mentioned you're at the regional level, so maybe Selena might have more.
Actually, I think it was actually at the NAC level. So it might be fallen. It might be something. Yeah, it was at the NAC level, the National Affairs Committee before. So it used to just be a repository where all the chapter reports were held, and the regional leaders and the chapter leaders had access to it. So I don't know if that's still in use or not, or would be of value. I think there are a couple of example reports on the chapter resources website, but I haven't checked in a while. So
let me take a look and then circle back on that piece. But that's a great call out, James. Thank you. And in the meantime, I did see Saul put a question in the chat. So Saul asks, in your experience, has the report been written collaboratively or solely by one person? What are the pros and cons of either?
James, you want to take this first?
Yeah, sure. So good question, Saul. So the way we do it in SHIP DFW is basically we divide the chapter report up. So each officer, the community outreach director, the professional development director, the membership director, primarily have line share the content basically, and we break it down by each of the sections. So the highlights page, which is used for the self-nomination for the national and regional awards, that one, the following the rubric, you have to provide content on each of the areas. So membership recruitment and chapter development and chapter engagement and community outreach and professional development and leadership development and member success. So we break those down between each of the officers. And then same thing for each of the sections. So the sections on member recruitment is typically done by like your membership director. Basically summarizes the CMT and the chapter plan, and then the accomplishments and future activities. And then same thing for the member retention. Is typically broken down into the professional development director, for example, since it has a lot of professional development activities and mentoring program activities. And they'll write that section. And then the member success is a lot of community outreach, scholarship, and professional career advancement. So, like if you have any members that get their PE certification or other industry professional certifications, or if you have any members that get into their engineering leadership development programs or job rotational programs with their companies, that's another good member success area. So to talk about and write about and keep track of as a KPI. So that will be done by the community outreach director, for example. And then the secretary and kind of tracks the metrics across the board for all of the events that the chapter hosts, does a lot of administrative activities. And then the president and vice president, the way we do it here in DFW is they kind of overall do the final peer reviewing and final editing, and then also coordinate with all of the board members to document the support needed and lessons learned. So for each of the sections. So hope that helped. Matt, you want to add anything that I left out there?
No, you hit the nail on the head. We love to divide and conquer. We find a lot of success in that. Also helps at the end towards final revisions, having a president, vice president look over our paper, our national report. That way, we can kind of have a good forming of what we want to describe, express, communicate in our submission. Thank you, Sawa, for your question. Any other questions, Joe?
I'll throw another
I
one.
can't think of any off the top of my head, but what was the email that we send it to again if we did have a question later on?
Yeah, so that is going to be chapters at ship.org. So I'll go ahead and put it in the chat for reference. But through that email, you can reach us at the memberships team, the team that looks through all of the reports. If you have specific questions or there are specific needs you might have after you submit a report and you say, hey, just wanted to give a call out that this is something that our chapter is struggling with. We'd love additional support. And whether it's leading up to you submitting a report or throughout the year that you need additional guidance, we're here to help you. So I went ahead and put that in the chat. And then I also did want to call out that I'm getting a link sent over to me with examples of chapter reports that have been completed. It's not currently on the chapter resources page, but then I'll work with the team to make sure that it's embedded on that page so that they're accessible to everyone as well.
All right, perfect. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Of course. One question I wanted to throw into the mix for the DFW team is you as a gold chapter award recipient, can you speak to how that's been impactful for your team, how that's helped you with your engagements and all of your local efforts at your chapter, and what that experience has been like? And for reference for everyone, to be a chapter in good standing, we do ask that you submit your report. It doesn't have to be perfect. Again, it's just an opportunity for us to see kind of the health of every chapter. But if you do a stellar job at submitting your reports and you are doing incredibly well, we want to recognize that hard work. And so DFW was one of our chapter recipients this past year at National Convention. They were awarded. And so just want them to share a little bit about what that experience is like for them.
Yeah, it's been stellar. I had joined DFW. I had never been a student. I had never been in a student chapter. I literally joined right when I joined as a professional. Joined membership, and for us, it's been just a I'd say epic reminder of all the hard work we're doing in our community. It really drives our team to continue striving for success, striving to do our best, and providing for the people in our community.
Yeah,
James.
I'll add to that. Yeah, so we just had a little member chapter development event last month to kind of celebrate with our members, because some of our members didn't get to go to nationals, so it was kind of the first time hearing about it and seeing it. So we did a bowling social last month as well for that. And so it was just kind of an opportunity to take a picture and see it, and kind of highlight it and showcase it to our members that may or may not was able to go to convention at the end of October. And then we try and keep a document of all of our chapter awards that we receive basically during the year, over the years. And then you can use that in your chapter corporate sponsorship packets basically, and use that to highlight to your potential sponsors and donors, and as a fundraising initiative, so that it highlights all of the good work that you're doing in our communities, and you can use it as an opportunity to highlight to sponsors on the good work that we do in our communities, and that we can use to grow and do better with some of potential funding opportunities as well too. So
The companies love to see their impact
yeah.
and actualization.
That's a great call out, James. Thank you. As I've in the past, in my work with SHPE, work with corporate sponsors, it makes it a lot easier for them and for their representatives, a lot of which were part of SHPE and they want to get back to SHPE now as professionals. And so they're in this space of wanting to build these partnerships with SHPE at a national level, at a local level, regional level. And it makes the ask so much easier for them in saying, hey, we're going to work with a chapter award recipient, right? So they really build the return of investment for the company in those ways. And again, the rubric is there. It shouldn't be a surprise whether you will be a gold, silver, and so forth, what you'll need to reach those points to be considered an award recipient, submitting your quarterly check-ins, your reports, just checking those boxes off. And really, everyone, you're doing the work, and we want you to brag about it. This is your chance to let us know all the amazing work that you're doing so that you can be one of our award recipients. It goes a long way in a lot of ways. Not only the morale, as Matthew spoke to it and James spoke to it, of going back to your chapter and really just celebrating all the hard work that you're doing regardless, right? And kind of motivating the team to keep pushing, to keep growing the impact. But then it helps you also financially grow your impact, right? If you're getting more corporate sponsorships, you're getting more support for your local chapter. So that's amazing. Awesome. All right. Any more questions before we wrap up for today?
Nope, just thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, y'all. Yeah, thanks for attending in person. So,
Thank you.
and good luck to y'all too. So, and don't hesitate to reach out. So,
Yeah, don't hesitate to reach out to us. I'm about to add our BOD email to the chat here. If you think of anything after the meeting, tomorrow, the next day, a week from now, feel free to reach out to our email here, and we'll be expeditious in our response.